He lunged at the gate every single time someone walked past. Not one person. Every person. Every bicycle, every dog down the street, every delivery van, every child. The lunge came with a sound that made neighbors cross to the other side of the road. A sustained, full-body bark that his owner described, with visible embarrassment, as like something out of a horror movie. The owner, James, had tried everything in the order most people try things. The stern voice, the spray bottle, the prong collar, 2 rounds of obedience classes that the instructor eventually asked him to stop attending because the dog was disrupting the other students. He came to me as a last resort. The words he used were, "I do not know if he can be helped. I do not know if I should keep him." That dog, whose name was Coda, became one of the calmest, most socially confident dogs I've ever worked with. It took 14 weeks, and it required exactly 0 punishment. This video is a case study, not a highlight reel. The full thing, the framework, the setbacks, the turning points, the outcome, because aggression deserves a real answer, not a 60-second clip. I want to be honest about what this video is asking you to believe. It's asking you to believe that a dog displaying the kind of aggression James described, consistent, intense, multi-trigger, socially disruptive, can be rehabilitated without dominance methods, without punishment, without showing him who's boss. That claim is going to feel counterintuitive to some of you. We're culturally primed to respond to aggression with counteraggression, to match force with force, to suppress the behavior at the surface level and call that a solution. Here is the tension this video is built around. If aggression in dogs is almost always fear in disguise, if it is communication, not character, then suppressing it doesn't fix it. It just removes the warning before the bite. By the end of this case study, you'll understand what Coda's aggression actually was, what drove it, what the intervention looked like week by week, and what the outcome has been 12 months after we finished. Whether you have an aggressive dog or you know someone who does, this is the most complete answer I can give you. Before a single training session, I spent 3 hours observing Coda and interviewing James. This is the step most people skip, and it is the step that changes everything. The intake assessment had 2 goals: map Coda's trigger hierarchy and identify what was actually driving the behavior. Because the surface behavior, the lunge, the bark, the escalation, tells you almost nothing about the cause. And you cannot treat something you haven't correctly diagnosed. Here's what I found. Coda had an aggression ladder that looked like this. 1. Stiffening, body locks, eye contact fixates. The earliest warning signal, almost never caught by owners until they know what to look for. 2. Piloerection, hackles raise along spine. Autonomic response, not controllable. Indicates genuine arousal, not performance. Tree, low growl, lip curl, verbal warning begins. This is the dog asking for distance. Most owners punish this, which removes the warning without removing the fear. 4. Lunge and sustained bark, full escalation. The behavior James saw daily. At this point, the dog is far past learning. Only the trigger's departure ends the episode. What I also learned from the history James described. Coda had been punished for growling repeatedly, which is exactly how a dog learns to go straight from stiffening to lunging with no intermediate warning. The steps in between had been trained out of him. James hadn't created an aggressive dog. He'd accidentally created a dog that skipped the warnings. That distinction is everything. It told me what we were dealing with, and it told me exactly what not to do. Coda's aggression, like the overwhelming majority of dog aggression cases I've worked with, was rooted in fear. Specifically, in what behavioral science calls fear-based reactivity, a threat detection system running in overdrive, producing aggressive displays as a strategy for creating distance from perceived dangers. This is not a character flaw. It is not dominance. It is a nervous system doing its job, badly calibrated, but doing its job. Understanding this changes the entire intervention logic. Because if aggression is fear, then what does punishment actually do? Punishment increases physiological stress in an already stressed dog. It confirms that the world is dangerous and that the people in it are unpredictable sources of pain. It doesn't reduce the fear, it gives it more evidence. This is the mechanism behind what's called redirected aggression, the bite that happens when a punished dog turns on the punisher. It's also the mechanism behind the statistical finding that punishment-based methods are consistently associated with increased bite risk, not decreased risk. The framework I used with CODA, systematic desensitization combined with counter-conditioning, works in the opposite direction. Instead of punishing the aggressive response, you work below the threshold at which aggression is triggered, pairing the presence of triggers with high-value rewards until the dog's emotional response to those triggers changes at a neurological level. Framework, desensitization plus counter-conditioning. Present the trigger at a distance where the dog notices it but does not react. At that moment of noticing, before any stress response, deliver a high-value reward. Repeat until the trigger predicts good things. Gradually decrease the distance as the emotional response changes. The behavior changes because the underlying feeling changes, not because the behavior was suppressed. I want to give you the actual shape of this, not just the wins. Week between 1 and 2. Threshold mapping and James's education. No training with CODA yet. 2 sessions spent teaching James to read the aggression ladder, to see the stiffening, catch the piloerection, identify when CODA was approaching threshold and when he was below it. Until James could read his dog, no protocol would work. We also identified CODA's sub-threshold distance. For people on foot, 30 meters. For bicycles, 50 meters. Week between 3 and 5. First counter-conditioning sessions. We began walks timed to low-traffic windows, keeping CODA at sub-threshold distances. Every time he spotted a trigger and remained below threshold, ears up, body soft, no lunge, James delivered 3 consecutive treats in rapid succession. The goal: person at a distance equals jackpot. By end of week 5, CODA's head was beginning to swing toward James when a trigger appeared, rather than fixating on the trigger. Week 6. The setback and why it matters. A neighbor's dog appeared around a corner at close range without warning. Full lunge, full escalation. James panicked and pulled hard on the leash, the exact thing we'd trained against. CODA's arousal spiked and took 40 minutes to return to baseline. We treated week 6 as a reset, not a failure. Setbacks do not erase progress. They reveal where the protocol needs reinforcement. Week between 7 and 11. Systematic distance reduction. Session by session, we reduced the sub-threshold distance by 5 to 10 meters as CODA's emotional response shifted. The check-in behavior, looking at James when a trigger appeared, became reliable. By week 10, CODA was maintaining calm at 15 meters from foot traffic. By week 11, he was walking past a stationary bicycle without a response above mild alertness. Week between 12 and 14. Generalization and maintenance. New environments, new trigger types, unpredictable exposures. The protocol held. The check-in was automatic. CODA began showing something we'd never seen in the intake assessment: disengagement. A trigger would appear, he'd glance at it, look at James, and continue walking. Not suppressed alertness. Genuine indifference built from genuine emotional change. I checked in with James at 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months after we finished. At 3 months, CODA was walking past the gate without lunging at 4 out of 5 triggers. The 5th still produced barking, but it was brief, 2 to 3 seconds, and James had a reliable interrupt that brought him back to calm within 30 seconds. At 6 months, the gate had become a non-event. James had begun walking CODA past the neighbor's dog, the one that had caused the week 6 setback, with nothing beyond a glance. At 12 months, James sent me a video without any message attached. CODA was lying in the front garden, gate open, while a group of children played on the pavement directly outside. He was watching them, tail low and still, not tense, not fixed, just watching the way any calm dog watches something mildly interesting. Outcome, James's own words. I almost had him put down. I am not going to pretend otherwise. I thought this was who he was. I didn't understand that who he was had been built on something, and that something could be rebuilt. He's a different dog, not because his personality changed, because his fear did. He's a different dog, not because his personality changed, because his fear did. 3 things most owners get wrong with aggression. Mistake 1, punishing the warning. Growling, lip curling, and barking are communication. When you punish these signals, the dog doesn't become less dangerous. They become less legible. The aggression goes underground and reemerges without warning. Never punish a growl. Mistake 2, working above threshold. If your dog is lunging and barking, they are not learning. The brain in full fight or flight is incapable of forming new associations. Every session conducted above threshold is a wasted session at best, a setback at worst. Your job is to keep the dog below threshold, not push through it. Mistake 3, expecting linear progress. Coda had a week 6 setback after 5 weeks of consistent improvement. This is normal. Rehabilitation of fear-based aggression is not linear. Setbacks reveal what still needs work. They do not erase what's been built. Track trends across weeks, not individual sessions. The open loop this video set up was a claim. Aggression is misunderstood. Here's proof. What the standard narrative says about aggressive dogs: dominant, dangerous, broken, a liability. What needs to happen? Force, suppression, dominance, in extreme cases euthanasia. What this case study shows: a dog displaying sustained, multi-trigger, socially disruptive aggression was, underneath it, a frightened animal whose warning system had been distorted by well-intentioned punishment. The aggression was communication. I am overwhelmed and I do not know how to make this stop. When the fear was treated, the aggression resolved. Not suppressed, resolved. 12 months later, Coda is lying in an open front garden while children play on the pavement outside. The prognosis James was given by the obedience class instructor, that this dog couldn't be helped, was wrong. Not because Coda was exceptional, because the diagnosis was incomplete. This is the standard that aggressive dog rehabilitation should be held to. Not, can we suppress the behavior enough to manage it? But, can we change what's driving it? The answer, in most cases, is yes. It just requires understanding aggression for what it actually is. If you are living with a dog whose aggression looks anything like Coda's, the lunges, the escalation, the neighbors crossing the street. The next video in this series goes into the practical setup of a desensitization protocol you can begin running yourself, including how to find the threshold distance and how to structure sub-threshold sessions in real environments. That video is linked here. If Coda's case shifted how you think about aggression, whether you have an aggressive dog or you've simply always wondered why punishment seems to make things worse, subscribing means you'll see the next case study when it arrives. This channel builds on these stories, case by case, because real examples teach what theory cannot. And if you know someone who has been told their dog is beyond help, this video is the most useful thing you can send them today. See you in the next one. Scan the QR code or tap subscribe now. New videos every week. Real training, real results, backed by science that actually works.